5 murders. 5 biological children of her own. On a quiet morning in Houston, Texas, June 20, 2001, what seemed like an ordinary day turned into the most unimaginable nightmare. A mother, Andrea Yates, drowned each of her 5 children in a bathtub, not out of hatred, but because she believed it was their salvation. But what drove her to this? Was it just a broken mind, or something far darker, something even the police couldn't explain? Today, we're stepping into that house, where restless spirits linger and secrets wait to be uncovered. Andrea Yates wasn't your typical mother. Once a nurse, smart, devoted, she began to unravel after her 4th child was born. Postpartum depression crept in like a shadow, dragging her into horrifying delusions. She heard voices, not from her husband, not from doctors, but from somewhere deep, cold, and unknown. Some say it was Satan. Neighbors, though, whispered of stranger things. Every night, they heard children's lullabies drifting from that house, even when the windows were shut tight. Her husband, Rusty Yates, didn't see the darkness growing in her mind. They lived by the teachings of a strange preacher, Michael Warrenecki, who spoke of sin and hellfire. Some believed those words weren't just sermons, they were a curse, planting the seeds of evil in Andrea's soul. June 20, 2001. A morning that started like any other in Clear Lake, Houston. But inside that little house, the air was thick with something unnatural. Rusty left for work at 8:30 a.m., leaving Andrea alone with their 5 kids. She stood in the kitchen, holding a cup she never drank from, her eyes fixed on nothing. Neighbors later swore that just before Rusty left, they heard glass shatter inside, but no broken pieces were ever found. Andrea walked to the bathroom. No one knows why she turned on the faucet an hour earlier, letting it fill the tub with icy, murky water. But here's the chilling part: when police checked later, the water pipe to the tub had been shut off. So where did that water come from? Some say it wasn't from this world. Mary was the first. Andrea lowered her into the tub, the cold water swallowing her tiny body. She pressed down, hands trembling but unrelenting. For 3 minutes, Mary's weak cries faded into silence. When Andrea lifted her out, the baby's eyes were wide open, staring at something behind her mother. She laid Mary on the bed, tucking her under a blanket. But here's what chilled investigators. Beneath that blanket, Mary's tiny hand clutched a strand of long, wet, black hair, not Andrea's. Next was Luke, 2 years old. He toddled in, clutching a plastic toy. Andrea repeated her ritual, submerging his head, holding him until his little body went limp. Then Paul, 3, and John, 5, followed. Each time, she whispered, "I'm saving you, you'll go to heaven." But while she worked, neighbors a few houses down heard singing an old lullaby, not in Andrea's voice, but in the high-pitched tones of children, drifting from that sealed-up house. Investigators later found something bizarre. The water wasn't just cold, it smelled like stagnant pond water. Drops splashed on the walls, leaving red streaks, though none of the kids had a single cut. Noah was the last, and the only one who sensed something was wrong. He stepped into the bathroom and saw Mary's body floating in the tub, her eyes locked on him. He screamed and bolted, barefoot, leaving wet prints on the floor. Andrea chased him, her face twisted, eyes burning with something inhuman. She grabbed his hair, dragging him back to the tub with a strength no frail mother should have. She forced his head under, pressing harder than ever. The water overflowed, turning crimson, though no blood spilled from Noah's body. When he stopped moving, Andrea let go, staring blankly at the tub. But in her statement later, she said something that froze investigators. She heard laughter, not her own, but rising from the water, as if something was pleased with the sacrifice. When police arrived, they found 4 bodies neatly arranged on the bed, like they were sleeping, and Noah still in the tub, his hand gripping the edge. Andrea sat in the living room, eerily calm. She said, "I did what I had to." But what unnerved the officers most were the tiny handprints on the walls, not Andrea's, not the kids', but smaller, like something else had been there. Years later, locals say lights flicker in that bathroom at night. Some hear children laughing, then silence, as if they're pulled underwater. Was it just Andrea's madness, or did something guide her hand? In 2002, Andrea was sentenced to life in prison. Prosecutors said she knew what she was doing. Her defense claimed she dreamed of a shadowy figure whispering that her kids were cursed. In 2006, a retrial declared her not guilty by reason of insanity, and she's been in a mental hospital ever since. But the question lingers, did she act alone, or was something pulling the strings? Some say the Houston house is haunted by souls that can't move on. Paranormal investigators recorded voices there. "We're still here," Rusty Yates admitted. He dreams of his kids, soaked and staring, blaming him. Today, the Yates house stands empty. No one dares buy it, no one dares live there. Passers-by swear they see kids at the windows or a woman in white, clutching a Bible. Andrea Yates may have been sick, but what happened in that house might be more than one woman's madness. Was it a crime of humanity, or an invitation from a world we should never touch? What do you think? Drop your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, and join us for more chilling mysteries. And, next time you're near a bathtub, listen closely. Something might be whispering back.